Hello.
What's poppin', fellow gamer? How you doing, bud?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
I'd like to call about your car's extended warranty.
I'm not sure who you are, but I have like 6 red flags going off in my head right
No,
now.
no,
And they
it's
are.
no, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Just, what's your social security number?
Hanging up now.
No, it's okay, it's okay. I don't know if I made an intro to this video, but basically we're gonna be talking about scammers.
You heard that right, folks. Today's topic is going to be about an encounter I had with one of these scammers in real life. So this happened a while back at work. Now, at first I wasn't sure if I should be using his name, but then I remembered, well, he's actually pretty public about it. So may as well give him some of that attention he was looking for. His name is John. Where I was working, there are 2 hotels and 1 parking lot. They're both owned by the same company. So at one of the hotels, this lovely individual decided he was going to hang around in the lobby, and he was staying there for quite an extended period of time. It was getting people a little worried, a little nervous. So the front desk, I'll just call him Z, for some reason was convinced that he should make a deal with this guy where he would give him 1 free night at the hotel. Well, free for him, but for Z, he actually had to pay for it. So Z paid for a whole night for this guy. And hotels aren't very cheap here. We'll just put it that way. So Z pays for this guy under the promise that he would leave the lobby by 11 a.m. He would no longer be at that hotel. That was the deal. And Jonathan, well, he did technically follow. He went from that hotel to the other hotel lobby. Now, this guy claims to have been unemployed and retired, and he starts giving his sob story or whatever to, we'll call her B. She was also working the front desk. So he gives his sob story to B so that she will, hear him out, maybe do something for him. He managed to scam her and get her credit card out of it. I don't know how he smooth-talked his way into getting her credit card, but it was under the promise that he would be getting a pizza with it.
Pizza time.
And yes, that is technically what he did. He did get a pizza, as well as going down to get a smoothie and several other things. It started to get a little suspicious when he tried buying all these gift cards with it. That's when she drew the line, I guess. Now, every time D and I, this is a new guy, he worked the front desk at the other hotel. Every time we encountered this individual, he would just ramble on and on. He really was a talker, and it sounded like he believed in every conspiracy theory under the sun. But we later on figured that that's probably a tactic that he uses. But I'll get to that later. So after he scams B out of her credit card and scams Z out of a free night stay at that one hotel, he starts working in the other hotel lobby on the public computer. He's on all these massive group email chats. He's going through all these Google sites and just printing off papers to the printer, and well, he claims that that's his work, which is weird because he also claimed that he was unemployed. The thing that D and I found very strange was that he was incredibly paranoid about security while at the same time working on this public access computer that had no built-in security other than it would time out. So he forgot to log out, and then he came back and saw his thing was still logged in, and for some reason he was surprised and also angry at us. We were always curious what he was doing on that computer. Later we found he was a very big fan of going on LinkedIn and Twitter. Speaking of Twitter, we actually found his Twitter, but I'll get to that in a second. So he made all these strange claims, like someone had been breaking into his room and stealing his stuff. You know, the documents he was printing off from public Google online websites, where he didn't actually have any input, which was a bit strange that he would be complaining about people stealing that, because those documents would have been worthless or public access anyway. But either way, the main point was that people were breaking into his room and stealing his stuff. So he started complaining about how there were no cameras, security cameras, pointing at his room specifically. In response to this, he requested that the hotel provide him a list of every single entry into that room. Every time a key card is used, it's, logged, so he wanted access to all that so that he could see who has been in his room. Which essentially means that he was accusing the hotel staff for stealing his property, his public documents from public websites, from a public computer that he was accessing and not logging out of. He was worried about people breaking into his room. Needless to say, that wasn't the only time he accused staff of doing things. He accused B, the female who had her credit card stolen, accused her of stealing his papers while he handed them over to get them stapled by her, which, by the way, was not required in her job to just fill every whim of this guy, stapling all his documents together and handing them back to him. But even if she did steal, it would have been on the camera. So it wouldn't have made sense for her to do that, but he still accused her of it anyway. Now, because of all his claims, he decided he was going to call the police in order to get them involved. He put in a claim saying that his stuff was being stolen at the hotel. The police came, and that was pretty much the end of that. But that wasn't the only time the police came for something related to this individual. Now, for the hotel, he was actually staying at the other hotel this time. Prior to that, he stayed that one night for free, and then he started staying at the other, but he didn't actually have a form of payment, and he was choosing to pay day by day. Most likely with B's credit card. Oh, but one night he started going on about these tangents about the weirdest stuff ever. Like Russian conspiracies, found out that his FICO credit score is 0. Don't know why he bothered to mention that. He said lithium batteries are bad, so we should switch to crystals because there's no radiation if you use crystals.
I cause cancer. Wow.
Not if I have anything to say about it, and I do.
Yeah, he was talking about all sorts of crazy stuff. He was talking about having like a top secret clearance that he had to maintain, talking about how he has DMs with Elon Musk, the standard stuff. He also said that in 2023 he is running for Colorado Springs mayor. So keep that in mind, that the future mayor, who's definitely going to be the mayor, has no problem with stealing credit cards. Nice. But D and I, D being the front desk who worked over there, he and I, we chat all the time and whatnot. We eventually figured it out. He probably uses all these conspiracies and goes on all these tangents so that if you feed into it and you start agreeing with him, then, to put it bluntly, he knows you're gullible. Which is honestly a genius thing for a scammer to do, but we don't think he's that smart of a scammer. He didn't really do a good job, as you'll see as the story continues. From the guy who decided he was going to come in from a smoke break, his mask was underneath his chin, not covering like just his mouth. No, not even covering his nose, mouth, or anything. He was just wearing it as a freaking chin strap. And he came in and told us we should be wearing masks. Yeah, sure, I probably should have told him I was wearing one to cover up my freaking dick. But the main reason I bring up that is, well, how I responded to that. You see, this individual was wearing mismatched socks, no shoes, and one of his socks happened to be a hospital sock. The other one was a long white sock, so not even the same height in sock. I'm okay if it's mismatched color, like honestly I don't care. But really, you're gonna wear a hospital sock and then a long white sock, walk around with no shoes, and your mask worn as a chin strap, and you're gonna complain to us that we're not wearing that? I don't know, I thought the whole thing was silly, but considering I work overnight and deal with literally 0 people, that was the only reason I didn't really wear one at all. But as he was walking away after he told us we should be wearing masks, I simply shouted out, "Sir, do you have shoes?" Needless to say, after that point, he didn't say a word to me for any of the days following that. So D and I decide we're gonna we're gonna feed into whatever he's saying, kind of see where it goes, kind of thing. And it went places. After finding out about that conspiracy stuff that he was trying to get us to believe in and whatnot, he made this really weird statement to D. He was all like, "What company do you want to work for?" And D, wanting to go into kind of a technical thing, was all like, "Well, I guess Best Buy's to be in the Geek Squad so I can get some IT background or something like that." And Mr. Daly said, "I'll get you a job by the morning." This is what he was actually claiming. He was claiming that he would be able to get D a job anywhere he wanted to work, which is like a fantastic thing, right? But Daly doesn't really know how connections work. So he starts asking D for all his private and personal information. D starts giving throwaway accounts and very minimal information, like, his public Twitter and stuff like that. And he started to notice that Daly was getting more and more irritated when he didn't share more and more of his personal information with him. He only gave him the bare minimum of what Daly asked for, nothing more, and yeah, that was it. So, as D was talking to Daly, they started, butting heads, and D started asking more questions, putting into question all the extraordinary claims that Daly was making, like having DMs with Elon Musk, or all these connections he said he had, his ability to talk to any major business and be able to get a job for him anywhere. Daly claimed that he knew personally the CEO of Best Buy, and all these connections started to get a little fishy when D saw him on LinkedIn just DMing random people and following them, and no follow-up. Yeah, just because you DM someone else, that doesn't mean that you two are connected then. If they DM you back and they actually want to continue the conversation, maybe there's something there, maybe there's a connection. Daly used the term connection a little too loosely. Now D, as a sensible human being, kept questioning all this stuff, and eventually Daly started to resort to the whole, "Oh, you just gotta have faith" kind of thing. Never mind the fact that these are substantial claims dealing with, employment. So asking for basic information or any kind of evidence for extraordinary claims, yeah, I guess that was a little too much for Daly to handle. So he started to get really mad with D, and he kept saying, "You don't get it still. You just don't get it still. You don't understand." Sir, I don't think you understand how connections work. Because you DM someone and then you follow them and then someone else follows them, that doesn't mean that you three are now a triangle. You don't have connections. That is in your deluded mind. So after this encounter, Daly decides that he's going to start essentially threatening D's job by making claims again. So he made a passing claim about how D was drunk on his night shift, which one, wasn't true, but two, was just a really scummy thing to do, because he was pretending, in a hypothetical where he was talking to like some CEO or something like that. He was still claiming that he was going to help D get a job, and he was like, oh yeah, no, I'll just tell him, yeah, I met this really cool night audit guy. He was probably drunk on his shift, but he's still a nice kid. You know how scummy that is? It's a very low blow, making false accusations to someone in order to threaten their job security so that they are more willing to open up and give you their personal information. However, D was able to see right through that, and although it was, kind of hurtful, he was able to move past that and see right through your BS, Mr. Daly. But yeah, Daly said that D wasted his time because normally he would charge people money for his time to get them these jobs and whatnot, but that was also just a bogus claim. But this whole time I was just making notes, writing on my phone and whatnot, just writing down everything that Daly said, including all the personal information that he freely gave D. And with this information, along with D's help, we were actually able to find his Twitter, which he gave us, and it is a public Twitter account, which is why I have no problem sharing it. At John NP Daly 1. Now, when I looked this up, I unfortunately was not able to find it, but D was able to send me a screenshot. So, yes, when people make all these bogus claims, they do all this dumb stuff, and I want to audit it, make note of it, or something like that, I do actually do a little bit of research, and there you go. If you want to check him out, you'll notice that his first pinned comment, red flag, is literally a self-plug on someone's much larger Twitter account, which is also a scummy thing to do. Do not self-plug in order to get attention or clout. But I digress. One specific issue that Daly had with D was phone calls. Now, Daly kept getting phone calls from all these random women. Now, these were most likely his scam victims, such as B, and they were calling him because maybe he made some sort of promise to them or something like that, and he was able to scam them out of money or their time or whatever the case may be. So they kept calling the front desk because they didn't have a direct line to his room that he was staying in. And, well, let's just say that transferring phone calls can be somewhat difficult, especially on weird systems that are, very antiquated. And even though I am very familiar with transferring phone calls, even on older phones, this phone I wasn't able to help D figure out how to transfer the phone call. He wasn't able to figure it out.
Just transfer the call, Homesprung.
In fact, most of the employees who worked at these hotels didn't know how to transfer calls because it wasn't really a necessary function. If they wanted to call the person in that room, they would usually contact using a personal cell, which is why D offered to give Daly's personal cell to this woman so that she could maybe contact him. Daly insisted, however, not giving her or any of these other women his personal cell, which was already another red flag, because these women were desperately trying to contact him, and yet he was blowing them off and not providing his personal cell. Clearly, they were contacting him for a reason. But either way, all these phone calls and transferring and whatnot usually doesn't happen overnight at 3 a.m.
Better call my local scammer.
So it's understandable when occasionally D or we may want to go and take a short, kind of breather break. Whether I'm just walking around the parking lot, I get kind of tired, so I'll just stand under the awning and, have a quick chat. Or he'll come outside in order to smoke because, obviously he doesn't want to smoke inside because that's against the policies. He's willing to respect that. But Daly said, basically another passive threat towards D's job security. Do you think they would want you to not be at the front desk when all these phone calls are coming in? Well, Mr. Daly, just to answer that question, none of those phone calls would be coming in. Most of them wouldn't be emergencies, and the only phone calls that have come in, I don't know, several months, have been women trying to contact you for scamming them. So you tell me, is it really that important that he is at that front desk at all times, when even in his regular job, if he took no breaks, it would still be required for him to leave the desk for certain operations, such as getting breakfast ready or anything else, any of the numerous reasons that he gets called away from the desk from guests like you. So yeah, Daly went on a fit about how he should have some sort of automated system for the phones.
Press 1 to suck my left nut. Press 2 to commit Sudoku.
And how D wasn't doing his job well enough, I guess, for Daly's liking, despite the fact that we wouldn't have to be babysitting Mr. Daly if he would just go to his room and stop leeching off a public computer and complaining about the security of it. Needless to say, his card kept getting declined. So that was under the grounds of eviction that he was escorted off the premises. Now, I wish I could say he was escorted off for harassing the employees, for being a nuisance to the other guests, for being warned multiple times not to be acting in a certain way, and just being very noisy in the lobby. Using the public access computer to be, blasting random trash music and all that stuff, going on his Twitter at 2 a.m. when everyone else is trying to sleep, including military members, government officials, all these people who are just trying to get rest so that they can perform their duties more effectively. But thank you, Mr. Daly. Thank you for providing me with a nice little story to tell people. Now, service announcement. Very obviously, and I shouldn't have to say this, but don't go after this guy, John Daly. But just know, if you hear of him, or you hear of someone who's acting like him, if they want to be public, go ahead. Share them publicly if they're already sharing themselves, but also bring to light their actions. Because these people scamming other individuals, hardworking individuals, under the promise of a better life is a very scummy practice, and it will not be tolerated. But that doesn't warrant grounds for not being the bigger person. This doesn't mean that you can go out and start harassing these people that, maybe I'm lampooning or I'm just, talking about, because obviously that's not what I want. All I want is to bring attention to these issues, which I think I've done in just a funny little, 25-minute video or however long this is. But yes, basically, to boil it all down, I did in fact meet a real-life scammer who does all these scummy things. I met him in person, so I know what these people are like, or at least some of them. So, what can we take from this story? Well, if someone is talking to you about all these conspiracy theories and all this stuff, or just saying things that aren't necessarily agreeable, the natural inclination for some reason is to just blindly agree with someone or alter what they say and then agree with that so that you can be an agreeable person. Screw that. If they are saying something that is blatantly wrong or you just disagree with, let them know that you don't agree with them respectfully, because we shouldn't just be doormats, and when someone says something that we don't agree with, we kind of just maybe tweak it a little bit and then we agree with it. No, you can blatantly disagree with someone. Me, for example, you don't always have to agree with everything I say or everything that I do. In fact, this video may even be a little on the edge for some people, bringing all this negative attention to this one individual. And as much as I would like to defend it, yes, that is technically what I am doing. It is not bullying, however. He is a public individual, and he is worthy of scrutiny for his actions, as scummy as they are. And, well, this content is interesting to make. And, there are plenty of work stories I would like to share, and I will keep a certain level of anonymity. For example, the names of the people he scammed, the names of the people I work with, heck, even my name, even though you could probably figure it out, like this stuff isn't technically like super private. So I hope you learned something from this, and as petty as I can be in some of these videos, I do it all for fun. So until the next one, punks, I'll see ya in a fat minute, because I don't really have a consistent schedule for uploading, nor do I intend to. It's just for fun. So see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.